Okay, so the next part of setup is getting all the tokens on your characters, like their health and sanity. So there's sanity and health for every character. So Joe Diamond has 4 sanity and 6 health. Min has 6 sanity and 4 health, so she's the opposite of him. And then Mandy has 5 of each. So actually, our 3 random characters kind of have a nice balance of that. We have one with more exact opposites, and then one right in between them. So that's pretty good. Joe Diamond starts in the police station, and his ability is hunches. There's a little glare here, I apologize. Joe rolls 1 extra bonus die when he spends a clue token to add to a roll. So that's his ability, any phase. Min has synergy, any phase. Min gains a +1 bonus to all skill checks while she has an ally or while another investigator is in the same location as her. And team player, Min may choose one other investigator in her location. He gains a +1 bonus to all skill checks he makes until the end of the turn during the upkeep phase. Okay. So if she gets in the same space with people, she can help them out. And Mandy gets the research. Once per turn, Mandy can activate... Sorry about this glare. Once per turn, Mandy can activate this ability after any investigator, including herself, makes a skill check. That investigator then rerolls all of the dice rolled for that check that did not result in successes. That's pretty awesome. Once per turn, she can do it. After any investigator, including herself, makes a skill check. Wow, that's pretty nice. Okay, so then the other thing about Arkham is there's 3 tracks that relate to each other. So there's speed, sneak, fight, will, lore, luck. And you have these markers that you place on them. So at this moment, Joe Diamond has a 5 in speed and a 2 in sneak. So as your speed goes down, your sneak goes... As your speed goes up, your sneak goes down, and vice versa on these tracks. Same with fight and will. So he's got a 3 and a 2 in those 2. And then lore and luck is 0 and a 3. One of the things about Arkham is that most of the checks you make have a -1 or -2 modifier. So leaving a skill on 1 never really seems like it matters, because if you get less than 0, if you're at 0, you don't get to roll at all. You can still spend a clue to roll, but you don't get to roll naturally. So I want to keep this maybe, instead of having a 2 and a 1, I might as well have a 3 for luck. And since it's probably going to always be a -1 lore check anyway, I won't be able to use it. We'll see how that works. Yeah. And then the other thing is focus. At the upkeep phase of each character, you get to move these around up to your focus. So Joe is able to move these 3 times at the start of every round. So it could be the same one 3 times. It could be each one time, however he wants to do it, depending on the situation at hand. So a focus of 3 is really good. Min is 2, which is actually pretty good, and Mandy is 2. So that's just how their setup is for their characters on their sheets. So that is that part of setup, making sure they get all their tokens on there properly and everything else looks good. So the next part of setup, part 11, is to create the monster cup. So it's called a monster cup. You're supposed to use a cup or a bag. I'm going to be using a bag. If I could find my bag. What happened to my bag? Bag. I guess this is it here. I actually got a bag. Yesterday I ordered a bag on Amazon. It's like a cool looking big bag that has some like Arkham Horror symbols on the side to use, but I don't have it yet, so we'll be getting that soon. So you can just use a bag if you want. Now these are the monster tokens in the game. These are all the monster tokens from the normal game. These all go in the bag. Oh, these are all the monsters. There's a shite ton of them. I don't know if this bag is actually going to be big enough. I'm going to have to go grab something else. You basically randomly select them when they have to select a monster. Just grab in here and grab something. The thing is that with the Innsmouth, you actually add these monsters as well. Could add it for the Innsmouth Horror expansion. So they go in there as well. So we have a ton of them that we have to kind of mix around and shuffle around. I'll spend a little time trying to shuffle so some of the Innsmouth's on the bottom and not all on top. But this is our bag for now until we find a better one. And there's also a few other monsters that come in the game. These are called spawn monsters. It has a red mark on the bottom. That means they only come in for certain things that happen in the game, so they don't go in the bag. And there's also monsters that are called mask monsters. I don't have any out here, but basically on the back of their thing it'll say mask on it, and those are similar. They only come out in certain times. They don't go in the normal bag of monsters. So sometimes there's an ancient one that specifically you use certain monsters for, things like that. That's when you would use these type of monsters. But because don't have to worry about that for this game, we just put this one back in the box. And now we shuffle the Ancient One decks and gate markers, which have already been done. These are the Ancient One decks here, and any other decks that might resemble the Ancient Ones that we're using. We'll do that. Or we've done that. I've done that already. So we're good there. And the other thing we have to shuffle are the gate markers, actually. So these are the gate markers. Basically, you flip these over when you flip a gate. It tells you what gate it is, and you place that at a location on the board where the gate spawns. So there's a whole bunch of these. So we're going to kind of just mix them around a little bit real quick. And just kind of stack them together in some way. So like stacks them in threes is kind of what I do. Boom, boom. Those three, these three, there's one left over. And then we kind of just mix them up how you want. Put that on top, put this one on top. So there's our gate stack that we're going to use in the game when that is necessary, which is most turns. Now we take our investigator markers and place them on the board. So the game comes with a lot of these little stands for all the markers for the monsters and the investigators that you get to use. So we have tons of these. So I'll go get our investigators and place them on the board. Okay, so here's what our investigators look like in the game on the tokens. Like so. Alright, so Joe Diamond starts at the police station, which is up here a bit in Easttown. So he starts there. Min starts at St. Mary's Hospital, which is over here in Uptown. And Mandy starts in the library, which is in Miskatonic University right here. So they're all ready to go. And now what we need to do, the last thing before we can start the game actually, is draw and resolve a Mythos card. So at the end of every round we have to draw a Mythos card. That's what adds gates and bad things to the game, and things of that nature. So, let me make sure the Ancient One doesn't have anything special. When a gate opens, roll 2 dice. And either draw. Okay, so we're going to open a gate for sure here. So we have to roll 2 dice. And if doubles are rolled, we have to draw and resolve a Mythos card. That's as part of Czar's ability. So that's what we have to worry about. So let's draw our first Mythos card and see what we get. If it is a rumor card, we redraw. We can't have a rumor as the first card. And it is not. It is an environment card. So here is our Mythos card. So these are done in certain ways. You actually go from the bottom left, then you go here, then you go here. It's very odd. And then you read it. So that's the order of how you do it. So the first thing you look at is where is the gate spawn. And the gate spawns in Devil Reef, which means we have to get a gate token, and that's where it goes. So our first gate token is the City of the Great Race. Alright, so we head over here to the Innsmouth board, and we find the Devil Reef, which should be over here in the water area. And here's the Devil Reef. And we put a gate there. Now, whenever a gate spawns at a location with a clue, the clue gets eaten up by the gate, basically, and the clue disappears. So here's the Devil Reef, right there. And now, because a new gate spawned, we have to roll 2 dice. If there's doubles, we immediately draw and resolve a Mythos card. So, I don't know if that means we finish the one we have now, or we just immediately do the next one. I would assume we finish this one first. Okay, so I looked in the instructions and in the facts in the back of the Innsmouth Horror book, and I saw nothing about how this works. So I'm just going to finish the one I'm on, and then if we roll a double, I'll draw a new one. Because it says to draw and resolve a Mythos card immediately. And so it's like immediately or wait or whatever. So first we have to roll. So I have actually have like Arkham Horror dice, which are pretty awesome if you like this kind of thing. So on these dice, because in Arkham Horror, every time you roll a check, a 5 or 6 is a success. That's where you always want to get. So 1, 2, 3s, and 4s look normal on the dice. But the 5s and the 6s have these cool elder signs on them. So the 5 there, 6 and the 5. So it's pretty cool, and these are obviously can be used in elders in well, Arkham Horror is this game, and then God, why can't I think of the other one? Oh my God, Eldritch Horror, which I really like that game as well. So they could be used for both because both games have the same system where 5s and 6s work. So we want to not roll doubles, and we roll a 5 and a 6. So we're good. So we don't have to worry about that ability at this moment. Okay, so because of that, we don't worry about this. But we also, every time a new gate opens, we have to put one of the Doom tokens on the Doom track of the Ancient One. So the Ancient One right here, we put a first Doom token on number 1. Remember, if this ever gets to 11, he awakens, and we have to fight him, which is pretty much always bad. Yeah, always bad. So we hope to not have to worry about that, but we'll see how we do. Okay, so that's done. So now the next part of the card. Well, the next thing you do, actually, is... Hold on. Okay, yeah, I don't know why I had a brain freeze there. So anytime you open a gate, you have to draw a monster and put them on the gate. So we're going to go into our monster cup. I actually changed it and put it in the box because that bag wasn't big enough. So I'm just going to not look, randomly select a monster. And we get a Bayaki. So this is a blue monster, the outline, which means he's a flying monster. Every monster has different rules based on their color. So this is a flying monster. It has a little background thing on it. It shrieked and flapped its wings. I thought of the empty shell of a beetle and the soft loom of the rotting earth. Loam? Whatever. Come on, focus. Focus, camera? It cocked its carapaced head at me, black teeth clicking against each other. Ooh. Okay, so these abilities down here we'll worry about if we ever have to fight them. That's what this is used for. So we basically have to put this monster in, put him here, and we'll place him in the Devil's Reef. So now, there is limits in this game on how many monsters can be on the board at once in Arkham. So, I believe if monsters are actually in a different town, it doesn't count for being in Arkham when it comes to monster limit. So the monster limit is the amount of investigators. Okay, so it's the number of the monster limit is the number of players plus 3. So we have 3 players, and then plus 3 is 6. So if there's ever 6 monsters in Arkham or in the sky, which is something that we'll come to, then any additional monsters after that go to the outskirts. And then there's a limit on the outskirts, which is 8 minus the number of players. So for us, it's going to be 5. So if there's ever 5 monsters in the outskirts, the 6th monster that gets here will cause the Doom track to go up 1. So that's the primary way how the Doom track goes up, once we start getting overrun with monsters. So that's our first monster, but since he is in Innsmouth, I don't believe that he actually goes with the monster limit in Arkham itself. But if he ever moves to the sky, then he will. Which he will do. Flying monsters tend to move to the sky space when they move. And they basically stay in the sky until they get to move again. And if any investigator is in a street location while there's a monster in the sky, they will come swoop down and attack that investigator. If they're in another location, that won't happen. Okay, so a clue appears. So we did the bottom one. We drew a monster. We had to roll for the ancient one. Didn't get doubles. We drew a gate, placed a monster, rolled. So now the clue appears at the esoteric order of the Dagon. So this is obviously a card from Innsmouth Horror, because everything that resembles this card is based on coming over here to the sideboard already. So the esoteric order of the dragon is here. So there's actually 2 clues here now, which is really nice. If we can get there and get those clues, that'd be awesome. And then the next part is monster movement, which is what these symbols here represent. So every monster in Arkham has a symbol on it. So this Bayeki has a circle. So when you pull a card, if there's a circle, they actually move. So we look, there's a square and a diamond, and there's 2 colors, white and black. So if you see there's different, so a white arrow, if it's a white movement, they will go down the white arrow. If it's a black, they will go down the black arrow, depending on where it is on the sign here. So square diamonds we don't have, but we do have a circle, and the Bayeki is a circle. So the Bayeki actually moves. Now, if a flying monster is in the space of another investigator, it won't move. If it can move to the street space following the color and an investigator's there, it will do that instead. I need to check on these, actually. Okay, so there's a specific thing in the Innsmouth Horror game, which we didn't even talk about yet, which is these tokens, which are called the Deep Ones Rising. And on this side of the board, where normally you have more other worlds, in this expansion you don't, but you have this Deep One Rising track. So there's 2 ways that this is affected. The first way is if a gate tries to open and it can't, because either you've sealed it, or sealed the location, or because there's an investigator with an ability to stop it from opening, you would add a Deep One Rising to this track here. And basically, if this track ever fills up all the way, we immediately lose the game. Well, we technically don't immediately lose the game, but what happens is that the Ancient One awakens. That's what happens. And the way to stop that is if any of the investigators are in a location here in Innsmouth, and they spend a clue token while they're here, they can basically get either location or street location. They can spend a clue token for the federal raid Innsmouth track. So this is the federal raid Innsmouth track, based on color, I believe. So they would spend their clue token that they have on their character, and they would add it to Sears, for example. And if this ever fills up all the way, then we actually take all these off and any Deep One Rising tokens off the board. But the Deep One Rising could come back again later. But that's how we stop this from filling up all the way. If it starts to get bad, we have to get up here and start spending clues to limit that. So the 2 ways that it can happen is the first way, as I said, where if a gate tries to open and can't, we put one there. The second way is if a monster moves into one of these spaces. These are called vortexes. They're only on the Innsmouth board for this game. So if a monster would move onto there, we would also have to add a Deep One. Now the flying monster in the game, in the directions for Innsmouth, says that they act like they used to. If there's not an investigator on their space or in a street space next to them, or a space next to them when they move, they just go to the sky. So I wasn't sure if he was going to move here and cause that track to go up, but it seems like he won't. So he just goes to the sky for his movement. So we go all the way back here and place him in the sky. So I hope that makes somewhat sense. Okay, and then, so we did a monster movement, so now we read, Sailor take warning, environment, weather. So environment cards stay in play until there's another environment card that gets drawn. And once another environment card gets drawn, then we discard it and replace this card with a new one. So, while this card is in play, any investigator who enters an aquatic location must pass a fight -1 check or lose 2 stamina. Okay. So any investigator who comes to any of these 2 locations with these aquatics marks on the Unvisited Isle, the river docks, or they head to any of the aquatic locations on Innsmouth, which is the Innsmouth Shore, Falcon Point. I don't even know how to say this. Ethanol. I'm just going to call it or Devil Reef. They have to do a fight -1 check or lose 2 stamina. Sailor take warning. So it's basically weather that affects them. So that is the end of setup. And that's how long it takes to set up this game. A little longer probably than if you're just doing it by yourself and not explaining. You just throw the stuff out. You can do it pretty quick. But I want to try to explain as much as I can. So that is set up for Arkham. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in this game. The board is huge. A lot of cards. An added board that we're using. More cards because of that. Ooh, there's one thing I forgot. We have to do that. More bits and pieces. And then our characters. So yeah, it takes up a lot of space. There's another thing that happens in this game that was added, which are called personal stories. So we're going to do those. Let me get this ready. Okay, so these personal stories were added in Innsmouth, and they basically have 2 cards for every character that's been released for the game, which is pretty awesome. So Joe Diamond, for example, has a little background story for him here that I guess we can do a quick read of. It's not the statue itself, Mr. Diamond. It's what's inside that's important. Carl Sanford sat behind his dark oak desk, looking coolly at Joe. I'll get it back, spat Joe, and those goons that took it, I'll add them as a bonus. That would be just fine with us, Sanford narrowed his eyes. We here at the lodge are anxious to meet these thieves. So there's like a little story for each character now. So we have a pass and a fail condition. If Joe is at the Silver Twilight Lodge during the upkeep phase, he may spend 5 toughness worth of monster trophies and 1 unique item to finish the job in play, which means he passes his story. And if he ever discards a unique item, we have to put no dice in play. So then these cards has the finish the job if he passes and no dice if he doesn't. And I don't want to read these until they happen. And this is basically the conclusion of his little story. So all the characters have these. And they're pretty cool. Little bonuses to the game. So let's see. Min has... Standing outside the hospital, still rattled from the death of her employer, Min looked down at the dog-eared copy of The King in Yellow she was holding and somehow knew it would contain at least some of the answers she was looking for. Although the book was extremely distasteful to her, she knew that she would have to stomach it if she wanted to get to the bottom of things. So for her to pass her Goodbye, Mr. Thomas, each time Min reads a tome, put a clue token on this card. If there are 3 clue tokens on this card, place Into the Dark into play. And to fail, if she's driven insane ever, place Turning Away in play. So she's driven insane if her sanity ever goes down to 0. So she needs to find tomes. He needs to turn in 5 toughness worth of trophies. Every time you kill a monster, you get to take that monster as a trophy, and the amount of hit points it took to kill a monster is how much toughness it's worth. So he needs 5 toughness worth of monster trophies and a unique item. To finish the job in play. If he ever discards a unique item, though, before he does it in that fashion, that's how he fails, it looks like. So that's kind of interesting. And Mandy, the researcher, the prophecies were starting to come to pass. If something wasn't done soon to disrupt the sequence, events would start falling into place like dominoes, gathering more and more momentum as they went until they become completely unstoppable. So breaking the chain. Each time a gate is prevented from opening by an elder sign, put a clue token on this card. If there are 5, place Broken Chain in play. If the terror level reaches 5, place Inevitability in play. Ooh, that's tough. So we kind of have to get 5 gates sealed before the terror level reaches 5. That's going to be kind of hard to do, I think. But we'll see how we can do it for Mandy. So that's there. So now we're officially ready to go, I think. Wow, that's a lot of setup. So we got the board set up, and we'll start next video with our first turn in Arkham Horror. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in a bit. Take care.